All right, welcome back to the shop. I'm assuming maybe possibly some ladies and as well gentlemen. I have got something totally different for you today. Today we're not working on the Deuce, we're not working on a Jeep, we're not working on a Dodge truck that's rotted, but we are working on something that's diesel, and we are working on something that's military. Some of you have seen this in my older videos, some of my previous videos in the shop where I'm doing like maybe parts unboxing and stuff like that. We're working on a generator today, and what I have here is an older, it was freshly refurbished when I got it, an MEP003A air-cooled diesel generator, 4-cylinder. It's always run good, but today I went to start it up and it just spins and spins and spins and nothing. So we started well, let me show you, because instead of sitting here looking at my ugly mug, this is what we have, and it has always leaked a little bit of oil out of the drain. I don't know, I've never taken that off because I'm afraid that valve is open. I don't know, I've never even had to service this thing. It's only got like 8 hours on it. Well, I had 20 hours on it when I got it, and I've put 8 on it. So I've never serviced it. Anyway, so we started out making sure it had fuel to the injector pump. So I had the pump running, and I checked fuel there. I had fuel. I checked fuel there. I had fuel, so I know all the filters were clear. And then I checked fuel right there at the pump, so I got fuel there, so I knew it was getting fuel. And I made sure the electronic shutoff solenoid was fully opening up. And I even jammed it open with a wrench and cranked it and got nothing. I cracked a injector line, cranked, got no fuel at all. So what that means, if you look at this, it's a rotary pump, just like the multi-fuel pump, meaning it's got one plunger in the center, a delivery valve somewhere, and a rotating assembly that distributes fuel to the different cylinders. So what I did is, what I know from the multi-fuel pumps and the VE pumps on Dodges, I pulled the center plug, because that's where the plunger is. So on top of that plug, well, let me show you what I have here, right here. These are all the parts I had to remove. Generally what happens when these pumps, if your fuel shutoff is working on a distributor type pump, nothing's stuck like that. What it is that your plunger has come up to the top of its stroke and stuck up. Or if it has a button on the bottom like the multi-fuel pumps do, that button has fallen off and the plunger can't get a full stroke. These don't have a button on the bottom, which means the plunger had stuck up. So let me explain how I got to that conclusion. What we had here was, looking at the pump, it looked just like that. Okay, a big nut on the end. So you pull off the nut, it's a 1-inch nut. Then under it here, we had a 9/16 12-point cap sealed with an O-ring. Under that cap, we found a delivery valve holder, and inside that delivery valve holder is, well, I had it backwards there, the delivery valve. So every injector pump that I'm aware of has delivery valves, either one or more. Like a Cummins P pump has one delivery valve per cylinder. Your multi-fuel pump on the hydraulic head, that little 12-volt or 12-point bolt on the side of the head, right there, that bolt, the delivery valve is under that. So every pump has one. So this one was under this cap, and looking out at me, looked just like that, looking out at me. And on top of that was this spring, and this spring sits on top of that delivery valve and closes it, and that spring, it seats in there. If you can see that, that's a tapered bore. It goes down to the diameter of that spring. So it's a spring guide. This also sets your spring pressure. So I marked it. I sprayed some paint on it before I broke it loose so I could see where the paint stopped and where I need to stop threading it when I put it back together. So with that all out of there, looking in here, there's our plunger. So what I did is I slowly bumped the starter switch a few times. I disconnected the fuel pump so I wouldn't be pouring fuel out while I'm doing this. Just disconnect the electrical leads. Then I've put a small metal punch in there and pushed on it, and I didn't get any movement, so I bumped it again, and I put the metal punch on there and I tapped the end of it with a wrench lightly, just 9/16 wrench, a couple little taps, and I felt it move. So okay, we're on the right track. So what you do then is, well, when you feel it move, you know it was stuck, because that means that the actuating cam that it pushes the plunger up is no longer pushing on it, but it's stayed right there, right? And it could do that just because the spring was out, but the amount of resistance I felt, like I couldn't push it by hand. I had to tap it with the wrench to get it to move. So it was, what it was varnished up old fuel in there, had stuck the plunger, and that happens a lot to old military stuff. So all I did was bump it over a few times and get the plunger to come up, and then knock it back down with the punch, and then get it to come up, and then knock it down with the punch until I felt like it was free. And then I stuck the punch in there and reached over with my other hand, and see right here is the start switch. I just reached over here and held the start switch over while holding the punch with my other hand, and I felt it go in and out with a little bit of pressure on the punch. So I know it's free now, and I can put it back together. So let me see if I can get that done. That damn compressor. All right, so let's put it back together. Hopefully I've got enough battery life here to complete this. Not sure if I do, but we'll find out, won't we? So delivery valve holder, and spring. Let's slide the delivery valve in there itself. Of course, because it's wibble wobble shaped, it doesn't want to like stand up, of course. But that's not really a problem. This is actually, it's not an O-ring per se, it's a steel O-ring, but it does seal on that. So we'll put this, we're gonna use some grease to keep this spring right side up. Grease won't hurt it. We'll stick that to the delivery valve and all, and then we'll put our spring guide and cap in here. I hope this works. I've never done this before on one of these machines. I've done some other things like this, but never one of these. So if this is a failure, so be it. But you know, you can't learn if you don't try, right? So I'm not going to be embarrassed for trying. Okay, well, it tightened up at the same level, so I guess it's not particularly important to put a mark on it. It just tightens up on where it needs to be. So we'll put the cap back on, and then its socket. And this does need to be tight or it will leak, I think, because it had fuel in it when I took it off. 2 grunts before stripping. Torque spec. Seems to work for most of us. Now, I probably should have marked these electrical connectors before I took them apart, because there's 2 of them. Oh, but I didn't. Such is life. Shit. Okay, which one goes where? This goes over here, that goes to the tank. So this one needs to be plugged in. Okay. I should be able to try and start that. I think that ejector line's still loose, but let's see. So that's a good sign. That means this sucker's gonna start. Oh, come on. I really can't complain because I've had this thing for years. It's always fired up when I've needed it, and I've never had to do anything to it, so I am lucky in that aspect, I guess. Let's try a preheat cycle because it hasn't been running. Come on. Oh, let's give it, you know what? Give it a little bit of help. Okay, let's check this again. See if we don't have something plugged in wrong with the pumps. Nope. Got fuel there. Well, I'd call that a success. So that is my first time having to get a non-running MEP003A back running again. I'm sure that is probably a very common issue with these things since they sit for a long period of time. They don't get used. You know, they sit before they get surplused out. So there you go. Now you can buy an MEP003A, 4A, 2A, whatever, even the smaller one, yeah, and have some kind of confidence that you may be able to get it to run if it at least turns over. So appreciate you watching, guys. Don't forget to check out our sponsors. They're listed in the description below. If you need parts or paint for your military stuff. And check out our Facebook group. It's called Tactical Repair Channel on Facebook. And we'll see you again. Later.